What up, HyperChange? Welcome to another episode. Today we've got a super special interview lined up with Hey Dave, legendary Tesla YouTuber, friend of HyperChange. What up, Dave?
Hey, Kelly, how's it going, man? Nice chatting again.
Yeah, great to have you here. So obviously, for those who've been following the channel, we've collabed before. You're a big fan of Tesla, long-term shareholder, big fan of Elon. And actually recently, what piqued my interest the most is you had this idea of the X.com merger, which was merging all of Elon's companies into one. As somebody who follows him and is an investor in SpaceX, Tesla, who wishes they could get access to Neuralink and the Boring Company, like, I love this idea. I think it reduces the friction on Elon's empire. And it's so fascinating. So I know we have a ton to unpack there, but could you start with kind of the elevator pitch of, what do you think is the problem with the structure of Elon's empire right now? And how did that lead you to propose X.com?
Yeah, so X.com, the holding company idea, it was kind of something I've been thinking about because I was worried that Elon would finish his 2018 CEO compensation plan and he would focus more on SpaceX and there wouldn't be as much to tie Elon into Tesla. So I was thinking maybe in the next 2 to 4 years, Elon might move on to SpaceX. So I'm like, okay, if he does that, then Tesla will do fine as a company, but longer term, let's say the 5 to 15 year kind of time frame, I don't think Tesla would do as well as if Elon was in charge, if he was leading the push. So I said, okay, how can we ensure that Elon kind of calls the shots and he does it in a way that it makes sense to him, and it kind of maybe makes his life easier by combining all of these companies that he's doing, and perhaps he could do more if it's under one structure. So that was kind of the idea. It was like over a year ago. I shared that. And then right after I got a big pushback that I didn't expect. I thought it was just like a naive, not a naive, just a simple idea.
Yeah, people are like, they
Yeah.
get a feeling about it. I felt that too. Whenever I mention it, I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
like people are beefing about this. I didn't realize that was like, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't get it until I started talking with some institutional investors. And I was chatting with one of them by email, and he holds a ton of Tesla, and he's a big Elon fan. And I was surprised because I thought he would be a fan of a holding company, but he was like 100% against it. Even though he's bullish on all of Elon's companies. And his whole thing is it doesn't maximize shareholder value. If you divide it up, you're not going to get fair value for any of the companies. And it's best to just keep it separate, right? And so after that, I'm like, wow. And I started talking with more people, and then I started to realize, yeah, there's an issue here. And the issue is Wall Street's culture and the traditional investing mentality is not one of super long term. No one's going to look out 5 or 10 years and what's best for the world or, the company 5 or 10 years per se. They're looking to preserve their assets and grow it at a predictable pace with some level of certainty. And so because of that, I started to just really be empathetic to those who were against it. And how, some people were scared that, oh my gosh, it's going to tank the stock price 50%. I'm like, really? Is it really going to, and I think part of those concerns are overboard in a way because Tesla is their financials are improving so fast with every quarter. They're just growing so fast. And I don't think analysts are really understanding how fast Tesla's profits are improving. So I think that's like an interesting angle. But yeah, on the other side, I do think it could hit the stock a little bit because if you look at what happened with Optimus at the Q4 earnings call, Elon just like talks a little bit about some of his future plans, and people just don't get it. They don't like it. They want him just to focus on cars right now and maximizing this year's chances. And so it's a tough one. I saw your video actually on X company and I think. I understand both sides. I'm kind of torn actually right now. I could see it working out, but I also understand the other side that, it could add a little bit of maybe complexity to more of a currently simple kind of Tesla investment play right now.
And I love the way you boil it down because it's, do we want it to be simple from the investment case or simple for Elon? And that to me
Yeah.
is where I like the X.com thing, because it's like, okay, SpaceX is burning a couple bill, Tesla's making a couple bill, let's connect these pipes, and like this is frictionless. Let's put all the engineers in one house. Like, let's reduce all sort of these corporate silos. And so when I hear what you're saying, an institutional money manager says maximize shareholder value. First of all, I don't believe that the markets would underprice this. SpaceX is raising capital at 100 billion. If they floated it
Yeah.
publicly, it would triple. So I would argue they're already not maximizing shareholder value in the private markets. Also with Neuralink, it would probably raise it triple the price if they floated it. So I actually think the institutional investor just like assuming that the markets wouldn't correctly value the equities entity, like the equity of the entity.
Yeah.
I don't really buy that. And I also don't like the shareholder value over like long-term thinking about what's good for the planet, because I actually think that's super short-term. And I think maximizing Elon's flexibility, maximizing SpaceX's access to Tesla engineers and that capital in the very long term could actually create more value than having them in silos. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
playing devil's advocate here, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the one thing that I love about the idea of just like, from the fan of like, Elon's this guy creating all these technologies that we want to proliferate. Let's make it as easy as possible for him. And that's why, to me, the X.com idea I loved. And I think Elon replied to you and he's been engaging with this idea because that's exactly where he's at. He's like, let me just run and do engineering and like get all, like, why is SpaceX going to have a meeting with a VC when Tesla's going to make 4 billion in profit and pay a 35% tax rate on it? And they're both my companies. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't
No,
know
I
if you
think
have
I
any
think
comments.
yeah, no, the tax issue is a great one because like yeah, you could invest a lot of that pre-tax into the perhaps one of the greatest missions of all time, SpaceX. I actually agree with you on the valuation point that I think people are assuming that there's going to be discounted, like investors are going to discount Tesla and SpaceX now, but these are two of the most exciting companies out there ever. And I think people underestimate the power of and the allure of SpaceX. Like in the private markets, this is the hottest company and it has been for many years. There's a reason why people are lining up in droves for this, and it's tremendously undervalued right now. That's why all these funds are doing, all these like fees and all this stuff on top of it. But but the other kind of issue you bring up is this thing of, do we maximize for Elon and his kind of focus and what he can do? Or do we maximize for something else? And there's an interesting point where, is Tesla still kind of Elon's company, right? And I think it still is. I think though there could be a time in the next, I don't know how many years, it could be sooner, it could be later, where Elon's role becomes maybe less and less crucial to the survival and the thriving of Tesla, meaning they just have so much cash flow. They have, great products that's lined up into many years into the future. Let's say they solve FSD, like this thing can go on for 10 or 15 years, this cash cow of FSD. And so if you look at it like that, there could be a point where, I see that dichotomy happening already. Some people are like, they are investing in Tesla even in spite of Elon. It's like 5 years ago, it wasn't like that. You had to take both of them together, Elon and Tesla. This was Elon's company. But I know now it's like, it just feels like a lot of Wall Street is looking at the numbers, and Elon is becoming kind of not as indispensable as, what early
I would
investors.
say only that. I don't want to say good investors are saying that. That's bad investors who are late to the
Yeah.
game. We know that Elon created all this value, and that's why we're looking at 8 billion in profit or whatever, is because he bought that machine and put his neck on the line when everyone thought it was wrong. So
yeah.
yeah.
So what I'm saying is there's a growing dichotomy of people who think that Elon is indispensable, but then there's another side that actually think that no, he is dispensable in a way. And I think we're going to see this play out more and more in the future. And it's just how it is as the company becomes more stable, more profitable. I mean, look at Amazon. Bezos steps down, nothing happens. No one cares. And it's because at a certain level of maturity and cash flows, like the analysts don't care about the CEO. They just want that to continue on. But yeah, I don't know. What's your take on all this?
So I don't know. It feels like, owner, operator, founder is the holy grail. Like for me as an investor, I'm obsessed with that. And so when Elon tried to get removed as chairman, like I was really against that, because I was like, I love this sort of dictatorship, for lack of a better term. Like I think that's how the best things happen. Like you need to make decisions quickly. If you want to be on offense, you need this owner, operator, founder thing. The second you move to a bureaucratic CEO, you're on defense. And I would argue a lot of the critics who want to replace Elon, like haven't been with Tesla from the start and aren't like, just aren't right. I don't know. In my opinion, it's like history show. Like what happened to Apple now? Apple hasn't took a big swing, and I'm actually really curious to what your take is because I know you follow
Yeah.
Apple super closely. Like Tim Cook's great at the numbers. He's great at Wall Street, but he hasn't taken the big swing. He's not going to execute on the electric car. He's not going to execute on Neuralink. I don't think he's
Yeah.
going to execute on the glasses. They're going to maximize the cash flow value what they have. To me, Tesla and Elon have so much value being on offense of the Tesla bot, of the semi truck, of the Cybertruck, the structural pack. Like to FSD Beta. We have so many more where you need type A offensive leaders that's why I think we're even though the financials look like maybe we're mature enough to get a new CEO, when I look at the evolution of the business model, I'm like, no, we need that savage owner operator founder who's willing to take these big risks, who's willing to put his entire reputation on the line for a super risky technology bet because that's where he sees the future headed. And I worry that these sort of business suits who've never been entrepreneurs that say we need a more mature CEO are realizing that they're putting the lid on the greatest value alpha generator that we have, which is Elon's creativity and what he'll invent next. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I mean, that's the whole, like when you find a great, thinker, leader, entrepreneur, engineer, you double down on that and you let Elon do everything he can and you don't like restrict that, right? And I think that's why that's why the whole X company kind of original thing came from. But on the flip side, Wall Street loves the Tim Cook type of CEO. Like he is the dream because in a way it's like predictable growth, right? He'll do the thing that makes sense, on spreadsheets. He'll maximize profits, maximize shareholder value, buy back the stock. He'll do everything Wall Street wants, and that's what big money wants. They want something predictable. They want to go to bed at night and not be nervous about what the CEO will do. They want to know that the CEO is has their spreadsheets out and has management meetings and is doing the typical thing that a CEO needs to do. And I mean that's a cultural tension. I think we talked about this actually in one of my first kind of chats with you on my channel. Kind of like this culture clash of what Wall Street stands for and its tradition and its rules versus kind of like this out of the box kind of thinking and which Tesla and finding Tesla, but also I think a lot of the crypto world, there's so much of the world that's out of the box. And I think right now we have Tesla in the middle right now, where it's become a mega cap company where a lot of the share ownership has been taken over by traditional in the box Wall Street, but you still have a large part of Tesla owned by Elon and others who are out of the box, and want to double down and who see the next big frontier as artificial intelligence, not just cars, But Wall Street, I mean, I don't know. I think Wall Street doesn't even want Tesla to do much more than cars. They just want it to be safe, right? And for it to be predictable. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on.
And it's so safe you say, or funny you say that. And like the dichotomy to me is so interesting. I almost feel like Elon and Tesla fans like Wall Street hates us, the market, they don't get us. And I say Tesla was valued at 50 billion when we were doing a couple billion in revenue and our price sales ratio was this, we're worth $1 trillion, even though we're still growing. Like to me, the equity markets, like Wall Street's this bubble that people think the commentary on CNBC and what Wall Street analysts say dictates valuations. To me, they have almost we're way overestimating their influence in this Wall Street box. The market's telling us Tesla's worth 1.2 trillion fully diluted, even though they're like making 1/6 as much as Apple. They're worth almost half as much. So I would argue the market's almost discounting Tim Cook's innovation relative to Elon Musk's, and actually the market loves Elon. And so as much as the Wall Street analysts will write these notes about how we need a buttoned up CEO, Elon can't tweet that. And my friends always tell me like Elon can't tweet that. Like you can't have your CEO tweet that. Well, I'm like, he can. He just did. Tesla stock's still going up. They're still making profit. They're still going to change the world. Like there's just this opinion that you need a buttoned up CEO when I'm looking at the data saying actually the market, screw what Wall Street is, the market's giving Elon all the capital and all the runway to do whatever the hell he wants because they know he's the greatest value generator of all time. And that's why everyone's begging to give him more money in SpaceX or Tesla or Neuralink or whatever, So I think I think we've gotten this past this moment where the internet and sort of like, I don't want to call it the retail investor, but like the knowledge of the crowd is driving it and the noise of Wall Street's kind of diminished almost.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's a little bit more nuanced than that because like I would say the dramatic rise for Tesla is largely due to financials. And if you take a company that goes from like, negative EBITDA cash flow to a $4 billion right, EBITDA quarterly cash flow rate just in a couple of years, like that's going to, turn heads. Like that's $16 billion annualized, adjusted EBITDA. Yeah, you do a 50 multiple off of that, you're already at $800 billion, just off of that, off of current EBITDA cash flow. And so I think there is a big case where a lot of Tesla's valuation did follow, I think, this turnaround with profitability and cash flow. That's also another reason why I think I'm pretty confident going forward, because Tesla's financials are so strong. And as they double production, it's like it's going to flow a lot to the bottom line, and you're going to have huge, I think, operating profits and margins coming through.
Yeah, I guess the interesting part to me is if you read Wall Street or you read all what the smart people were saying in 2018, we were like 30 or 50 billion. Like you remember that was like the bull bear debate. It was like the perceived solvency. The mainstream media is going to be yelling that Tesla's not solvent, that they're losing all this money, the business model's insolvent, yet the capital markets are willing to keep the price inflated and keep the equity price at a certain level where they can keep diluting to fund the business model, and they gave Elon the chance. So as much as the public markets almost killed Tesla, I also think they also like believed in Tesla just enough to let it succeed. I don't know. It's nuanced, but
sure.
but I love what you're saying there though. The amount of times where we kind of forget that like the fundamentals have backed up all these weird moonshot theories. It's funny how the narrative is shifted so far away from the financials now that they're so bulletproof. But okay, I want to get to more spicier stuff about Tesla. FSD. Do you have FSD? Are you testing it? What's your take on just where we're at, how it's improving? Would love to know.
Yeah. I saw your drive with Omar the other day. So yeah, I've been testing since 9.0, I think July of last year. And I drive it a lot, actually, as much as I can, almost every day. And I've seen it actually improve a lot. And I'm actually super happy with the progress. I think initially, when I first got it in July, I had high expectations where I'm like, okay, this doesn't drive according to like the videos I've seen. But when I was driving it, I started to understand. And I think having James Dalma, and I would like offline, I would send him video clips. I go, hey, what's going on here? Like, what is the computer seeing and what is it doing? And I started to just really understand like why it's making the mistakes it does when it does. And it started to give me this deeper appreciation of how difficult autonomous driving is going to be. And it gives me confidence that I really think Tesla is actually farther in the lead than most people think with autonomous driving without using LiDAR. I mean, I think it's completely different fundamental approaches, right? LiDAR and just vision. But I think in the vision camp, yeah, I mean, Elon was saying 5 years. Like, I was actually thinking that before. I'm like, I think Tesla's like, because a lot of people think, oh, Tesla might be 6 months ahead, 12 months ahead, right? Everyone's going to have vision shortly after Tesla. But I was thinking, even before Elon tweeted, I'm like, I think Tesla's at least 4 or 5 years ahead. This is really hard stuff. So actually, the longer it takes Tesla to solve FSD, in some ways, it shows me the difficulty of the problem, like how daunting it is, because you have the best of the best pouring, resource upon resource into this, and I don't see, a second place that has the data and has the ambition that Tesla has, right, with vision only. And so I'm not too concerned about timeline. Like a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, is it going to happen this week? I can't believe Elon said this year or something, right? Or this year for level 4. And I'm like, I don't think that really matters as an investor personally, because you've got, on one hand, you've got growing production. You got 2 new factories. So as long as you have revenue increasing, that's going to come and increase margins, operating profits, the bottom line. So Tesla's financials are going to be in the right direction. So it doesn't necessarily matter if robotaxis come in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. It's like what matters more is if this is a winner takes most market. If Tesla's lead is actually like a durable advantage, or are 3 or 4 players all going to catch up at the same time as Tesla? Like that is the key question, in my opinion. And I'm just I'm strongly in the camp that I think this actually is a really strong, durable advantage that Tesla has. That's multi-year in competitive advantage. It's not going to be easy for others to catch up. And because of that, I really think that this could be one of the biggest winner takes most tech markets ever. And so, timeline is kind of secondary in my opinion.
So why do you think Elon has been so adamant about constantly you know, just talking about the timeline? Because when I think about our history with Tesla and what happened with
Yeah.
Model 3, the missed expectations and mismanaging expectations with your own community was the biggest mistake. And so I don't know, it's just kind of at the back of my head, but I've been thinking again, like, Elon, like, why do you always say it's this year when everyone knows it's not? And then Hey Dave is
Yeah.
like, and you know, we're all long term. So we're like, it's getting better. We're going to get there. It's super hard. We're way ahead. We're moving as fast as we can. Like, that's great. We don't need it to be done tomorrow. Like it'll be ready when it's ready. So why isn't Elon communicating at that level? Why is he saying timelines? And is that just Elon being Elon pushing to move fast? Or like, because
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's kind of the thing where I'm like, deep down, I do not think a robotaxi for Tesla will generate revenue before 2025, probably. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So, okay, this is going to be, I'll go where I don't think maybe many people go here, but like,
yeah, yeah.
Elon's getting a lot of flack for this timeline thing, right? I mean, you see videos by other YouTube channels and other media outlets who are, you know, clipping together his past statements of FSD timeline, saying next year, next year, next year, right, all the way back from whenever, and even questioning if Elon is lying or not, right? Is he really telling the truth? And I think this has kind of stirred a lot of just reaction, right, from some people in a negative way. And this is like not 100% an excuse, but this is just how I personally take it. Elon is a particularly unique individual, and he doesn't have the same perhaps proficiencies all around, or he has different types of proficiencies, right? And his proficiency to think and to solve problems and to think analytically, to push things to its limit, first principles, physics, engineering, is off the charts. But his proficiencies and skills in terms of relational type of managing expectations and all of these things are not very high, in my opinion. Like, he's not thinking about relational expectations when he's saying these. He's purely analyzing it from an engineering perspective, based purely off of these equations that he's seen, not he's seen, but he's looking at like what his team is telling him in terms of data, how he's viewing the problem. So in his head, it's purely a numbers crunching, like interventions per mile, how fast are we improving the system over time, how fast compute will improve. All these things are going in his head, like equation wise. Right? There's nothing in his mind that's saying, oh, I need to manage people's expectations lest they become disappointed and blah, blah, blah. What if this doesn't happen in time? Then I can get into trouble, whatever. Like, that's not what's going through his head at all, zero. He's purely, and that's why every year it's like almost the same answer, right? It's going to happen this year because all of the equation, all of the data he's seeing is really positive, right? And the team is making a ton of progress. And what most people don't, I think, realize with this is autonomous driving has never been done before like this with pure vision. Like, it's completely new. It's a new area, a new product. There's no precedent for it. So how do you know whether or not you've done it or not? Like, you don't until you finish, until you get there. And like, you can bash Elon all you want, saying that, oh, he's like, messed up and all this stuff. And sure, there is this element relationally. Yes, he's messed up with timelines completely. I agree with that. But it's not intentional, I don't think, at all, zero. And he's purely saying what he really believes and thinks in the moment based upon, his analysis of their progress. Yeah, I mean, what's your take on this? I'm curious here.
Yeah, I know. I think you said it beautifully. And there's like the legal term of scienter, which I remember when the Elon Musk case happened of the 420 going private tweet. Do you have ill intent? And that will like dictate a lot of the repercussions. And I think Elon never has scienter. Like, he's never like trying to lie, to deceive you, to do like, and that's what I think all these kind of people who see the worst in the world and see the worst in Elon, like, try and take it out of context when it's like, this guy is just trying really hard to do something. And like you said, he's thinking about it, what's possible. And you see in his robot brain, you have to listen to every word he says. I think we will be safer than a human driver within a year. And I would argue it's probably already safer than a good amount of human drivers. It's not even that crazy to say that. He's not really saying it's going to be like the perfect But actually,
Yeah.
I kind of have your advice on that, or I want your advice on this, and just to be really candid, like this is something I'm struggling with, like the Omar video. So I posted that, and like one clip of it gets taken out of context, and this has happened to me several times. And like the first time it happened, I like had to delete my video, or like they clip out of a 30-minute drive the worst part, they make it look the worst. People post it on Twitter without my consent. I don't even know because they don't tag me or anything.
Yeah.
And then I tried to get them to take it down. I deleted my video last time, and then it happened again. And so from as a creator, I've been trying to document my progress with FSD because like this is the coolest tech thing happening.
Yeah.
I'm also a Tesla investor. Like this is the front lines of my due diligence. Like I'm sharing my investing journey. Like I want to open that up. Like I almost feel guilty if it does bad and I don't tell my people, but I know that. Now I'm pretending that out. So I've just been like kind of torn up because it kills me when it's like, oh, everyone takes it out of context and thinks I'm doing something so unsafe. And like to me, like personally, road safety is so important. Like I don't know if you remember a year ago today, actually, like Tesla had some Bitcoin news drop. And you hit me up and you're like, Gally, let's collab and do a video. And I couldn't because my friend passed away and he was hit and killed by a drunk driver and there was no consequences. And that's like what people go through all the time. And like, that's my best friend and brother to me, Josh. And it's super sad. And like, so when people tell me that I don't care about road safety and like that, it just like, it's so far from my truth as a person. Like I am so passionate about this technology because I think we need it for the safety of the roads and everyone. And like, it's just super important. And so as a creator, I'm like torn of like, I'm trying to post these videos. They get taken so out of context. Like, should I stop posting them? How do we tell people about FSD? Like, and there's gonna be crashes on FSD. That's just gonna be part of, so I'm just like, I don't know. It's kind of an open-ended question, but I'm really curious, like your thoughts as a creator.
Yeah. So I'll just share like kind of why I'm not posting many or much at all FSD videos. I actually was intending to post FSD videos to share kind of my experience with them more. I might have posted one very early on, but then what I realized is, oh, people aren't going to understand this. It's like they're just really not going to get it. Meaning they're not going to understand how good it is when it works well. Like, because you have to kind of almost be in the car and like there's so many times where like, oh my gosh, the car actually did this, you know? And like you're having like, I mean, 100 of these moments where like, wow, this is really amazing. People aren't going to get that, I think. And then the second thing is they're not going to understand the interventions. And I think they will because they don't have the context of why the cameras, the computer did what it did. They're going to misinterpret the interventions as something that is really not, you know? And that's why, like, you know, early on I started to do, okay, rather than doing full drives, maybe I'll just do a case study of some interventions. So I called up James Dalma and we did a video where we did like 5 or 6 interventions. And I just did a 5-second clip. I said, okay, what happened in this intervention? You know, like what happened in this intervention? And he gave me kind of the angle of what the computer is seeing, how it was deciding what to do. And it's very different than what most people would imagine or think, right? Like, for example, in your Omar video, there was this, you were following a biker and then like it kind of was going into, it felt like into the biker. And there was an intervention. And I messaged James Dalma. I'm like, hey, can you take a look at this timestamp? Like what's going on here in this situation? And he analyzed it and he's like, oh, actually, I think the car actually was seeing that you needed to be in the right lane because it was going to turn right eventually. It was trying to actually get into the right lane earlier. But what happened was Gally probably pressed the accelerator going past the intersection. As you're passing the intersection, you kind of maybe press the accelerator, and that messed up the path of what the car was going to do. It was going to actually slow down. The reason why it was slowing down at the intersection was not because of the intersection, was because it was trying to wait for that bike to go and then to get into that lane and to slowly kind of do its job. But when you press the accelerator, it messed up the path where it was trying to get behind it. But then you pushed it and it kind of went. So he was explaining this to me. I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. Because I don't think when you look at that clip, they're not going to get that's what was happening. And James Dalmas, his conclusion was, oh, this is actually a case of maybe the human pushing kind of a wrong intervention into it, like the accelerator, when if the human didn't do that, it would have acted actually in a much safer way. But actually you are causing perhaps an overreaction. So anyways, he brought that up. I'm like, who in the world's going to understand that just by looking at that clip? They look at that clip and they're like, oh my gosh, look at FSD, it's like terrible, whatever, unsafe. And I think that's just the natural reaction for people who it's a very nuanced, complicated, challenging thing to dissect, And so I think there are certain ways that I think maybe are appropriate to do it. One example, if a person has like 30 different points that they always go through, and it's like an obstacle course, and they track each version from 9.0, 9.1 and see and give it a rating, like an out of 100 for every single drive. And then they're just doing this obstacle course, like every single drive, and they give a point total, and then they show how far it's progressed over time. Like that's more of an objective kind of data play. Like, how does this work just purely, off of a score of 0 to 100? But when you take kind of these just random drives and, there's a random intervention and one of them is really scary, it's like, it's going to get overblown, I think, or misunderstood, by most people. It's definitely a tricky thing there.
That was, amazing insight. And I love talking to James about that. I'm like, damn, that sounds fascinating. Like I need to have him be breaking down more of these situations. That's so interesting. Yeah. And like, I'm kind of like speechless because it's so like, on some level, like I love the scrutiny of these moments. I think is equally valuable of like, wait, Elon, like, don't you want to figure this out and mess it up before it's like someone in a CNN reporter who makes it look worse and doesn't take over and like isn't giving you the benefit of the doubt? Or do we hide all of these moments because people can't handle them? Or do we just own the truth and let people get used to it? Like it's just such an interesting I don't know. And I'm kind of torn as a creator because like my whole ethos is to like just like be 1,000,000% honest and like wear my heart on my sleeve and just like literally document what happens. And so now I'm feeling like I literally almost can't do that because the internet like isn't mature enough to understand it. I don't know, but it like that almost makes me sad. And I'm like, well, now there's going to be 100,000 cars with this. Like it's not just Gally being an idiot posting, like there's going to be a lot of idiots posting. So Tesla needs to get ready for this. So get ready. Like, I don't know. Just as a Tesla investor, this is like, I feel like we're talking so negative about Tesla, but I don't know. Like, I think that's what great investors do is you should be worried about the thing you have to worry about, which is FSD is so incredible, but is also the greatest headline risk to Tesla and is also the greatest, I think the biggest mispriced thing about Tesla stock is the public sentiment that people hate Elon Musk. People are ready to just hate Elon Musk and cancel him a la Rogan and like, just no matter what. And it really makes me sad, but that's why I think if I was going to talk to Elon, like one like minor kind of like vibe advice I would give is he's underestimating how hard the media will go when FSD messes up. When there is a crash, if it gets documented, if something happens, they're underestimating how big of a backlash there will be from not regulators, from not the equity markets, but from the public and what that will create on a political level. And so that is to me the biggest risk of Tesla equity is, and that's why I say Elon, out of all the promises, the promise of a self-driving car sooner could backfire if something goes wrong. And it looks like, I don't know. Anyway, I'm just kind of, I'm really curious what your thoughts are though.
So I see both sides. I would give the counter argument that if you look at up until this point, Tesla has done a pretty good job navigating kind of FSD beta and the rollout. And they haven't, I think, pushed things too fast, too far in the sense where, it's been actually, a pretty remarkable rollout to this point, meaning they're thinking about this step by step. They're just not haphazardly doing this stuff. The second thing is, I think it's a little different than, for example, that whole Uber crash, that shut down their whole driverless program. Tesla's program is more this, driver oversight is required at every moment, all the time, and the ultimate responsibility is the driver's responsibility. And I think because of that, there is this a lot of extra coverage or in terms of leeway that Tesla has, where when there's a crash, it's really, why did the person let that happen? Like they could have just taken the wheel and, and done what they needed to do. They weren't paying attention. So it's right now there's this interaction between human and computer, and legally and everything the human needs to be aware and on the moment take responsibility, or else you shouldn't try the software, So in that sense, I think maybe it could be okay. And then maybe it gets so good in the meantime as it gets, it's overseen by humans. It's just getting so good. Let's say in the next 1 to 2 years with, you have version 11 now with full stack with, all this stuff with maybe Dojo, all this stuff combined, it gets so good where it's like by the time 1 or 2 years hits us, it's actually like, they're piloting robotaxis in Phoenix or San Francisco or some other places. Maybe in a more kind of I don't say geofence way, but yeah, with certain restrictions. Like for example, Cruise in San Francisco are doing it. They're doing it at like 25 miles per hour late at night. But I think there are ways that you could actually roll out robotaxi if it's so good, if it's really reliable as in a few years, that kind of slowly perhaps eases it in. But we'll see. But obviously there are going to be crashes. And that's the other thing. These crashes, some of them are going to be so hard to understand for the public because no human would make that type of crash. Right. And once it hits the headlines and then, yeah, it's definitely a big risk.
And the thing in the back of my head is like, I actually love what you said there because that's such an important reminder of like, actually, I'm in control. So if anything happens, like this isn't test. But then the flip side is like legalese is one thing, but it's called full self-driving. That's what the media is going to call it. They're already writing the articles as if the car almost hit the biker and it was, it's the articles aren't Gally almost hit the biker. It's the car almost hit the biker. So I don't think the media will appreciate the nuance, unfortunately. I don't know. But okay, let's talk about the good thing about this FSD because it's, as nerdy Tesla investors, we're in the robot now that's driving itself. And then it's like we're developing the AI for the TeslaBot. And I don't even think we really caught up since the TeslaBot. And this is big. And I loved, did you make that chart with the arcs? And I think Elon liked it. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to put that up. That is the dopest chart. It's so simple. It's so beautiful. It just, can you walk us through just this idea that Tesla has disrupted the value at maturity of their own firm with the TeslaBot?
Yeah. So, okay. So I'm gonna hype you up a bit, Callie here. So I've been talking about this thing called the 4 S curves of Tesla. And how usually with technologies like, you have this slow adoption. Once it hits, it takes off, it gets better than the existing, legacy product. It's a huge steep slope up, and then it tapers down, tapers off. So we're in this first EV S curve right now. This is a massive, massive S curve. I was calculating probably there's over $2 trillion of auto sales per year. And it's just a massive multi-trillion-dollar market that we're just starting the S-curve for EVs, which will dominate everything, right? And then, so this is why I'm bullish on the stock the next few years too, because I think, we're going to see some massive demand, and that's going to, really push operating profits a lot higher. But then the second S-curve is FSD. And again, the adoption, and that's why this is the whole thing. Even like folks, like everyone, with the S curve, they think it's going to happen faster than it really will happen. And so FSD, a lot of people thought it's going to happen a long time ago, but it's like a slow thing. But once it really does happen, it's going to go crazy. It's going to, like, once it's solved, right? And this is going to be the second curve, which is going to be probably much bigger than the EV or the whole vehicle market, just because if you do like, 10 trillion miles supposedly is a rough figure that's driven in the world today. So, if you do like a 25 cent or even 50 cent per mile, that's like $2.5 to $5 trillion. But that's not considering how much more people will drive with autonomous driving. I think it could be double or triple those miles, So you can easily have a $10 trillion market for autonomous driving. So this is the second curve. And I think once Tesla solves this curve, FSD, you're going to see the steep slope. And so this is it's rare that a mega cap, $1 trillion market cap company can find a second S curve market that's bigger than their big market, It's like, it's really rare to find. And then you've got the third S curve, which is energy. And I think if Tesla can make some breakthroughs with batteries and storage, I think they have a good shot in 5 or 10 years of hitting perhaps this steep part of an energy S curve. And then you've got this AI robot S curve. And I call it the mother of all S curves because this thing there is no, I think, limit to the steepness of when the slope stops, because theoretically, it could really, there's no limit of how many robots can be made, because the robots can make themselves. It's like it's just a function of the limits of energy and raw materials that's available in the universe, or in the, I guess, near wherever on Earth or wherever. And so when you think about that, this AI robot S curve, here's the thing. People don't want to entertain these extra markets because they don't think it's here yet, right? And they think it's fantasy, it's not going to come and all this stuff. But the great thing is you don't have to believe in these extra markets completely, because Tesla has the EV market S curve already. It's like already this crazy dominant lucrative market. So all of these other S curves, which are bigger in multiple times than the vehicle market, these are actually like option calls, on the company, that I think, my personal conviction is, I think it's going to happen most all of this, and they're going to be bigger than the EV market, all of these markets. But yeah, it's kind of mind blowing that a single company somehow stumbles onto, like, they start making cars, but then they end up stumbling onto, like, perhaps AGI eventually. It's like, I don't know, I don't understand how that happens. It's like so crazy.
Yeah. And it's so hard to, like, when you think of what Tesla is, that's why I love the X.com idea. It's like a Navy SEAL team of engineers just tackling all these incredible problems. And that's why their disciplines are so multifaceted. And Tesla's like this basket of startups, and why I think like SpaceX and Tesla are accomplishing all these things. It's like, where do all the engineering students want to work? There. Why do they want to work there? Because they're working for Elon. Like, yet another reason why we need him leading and CEO, because that's like the deep engine of all this like innovation and excitement that's driving all this progress. And like, I don't know, I think about the TeslaBot as just having an unbelievable addressable market, just, folding my laundry, cleaning my house, but it's, and just last mile deliveries. But it's also like, I've been kind of struggling to think about the human component, because just what that will mean for our purpose as humans, because I can't think of something more profound. Like, the smartphone's profound, but just like this idea that like all these tasks around my house I don't have to do, and I have a robot walking around doing them for me. And when I walk to my coffee shop, I'm going to see, 4 robots in line in front of me getting coffees for their people who don't want to walk to the coffee shop. Like, it's just going to be a really weird it almost feels like this to me is like there was all humans walking around, and now we're going from just humans walking around to humans with a bunch of robots. And the percentage of humans versus robots, which is now 100, is going to go is just over our lifetimes is going to be more and more robots, probably maybe over 50% robots by the time we die. So it's like, I don't know, maybe we're getting kind of off topic here, but I just think this is a weird future that I didn't envision, and I definitely didn't envision Tesla building before AI Day. So
yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on kind of like this change of mission of Tesla?
I mean, no, I agree. It's kind of like this thing that's caught off guard many people, because Tesla was this, or has been, the sustainable energy company making EVs, and now you have Tesla becoming more and more of an AI company, and then talking about these robots that will disrupt so-called the whole labor market. And it's just kind of crazy if you think about it. One of the things that kind of helped me though along the way was my first talk with James Damle was in November or December of 2020, and I was asking, what else could Tesla do with AI, after full self-driving? And he was like, well, possibly humanoid robots, and he's like, it'll cost maybe about $10,000. And he said he's done this big old study with his so-called research partner on, what it would take, and all the actuators and all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, Tesla could actually get into that, but he's not sure when, right? And so actually, in some ways, I've been kind of expecting it, and that after FSD, what else are you going to do with AI? You go pure digital, like Google or Facebook, or all these people, just you do some internet stuff, like that's not really Tesla's MO. And if you do something offline, it's got to be something useful and impactful. And a humanoid robot, like, I was really happy about the humanoid robot, because most people making humanoid robots, they try to make the robot look like a human, like the face and everything, right? Try to trick people to think it's a human. But like Elon has the common sense to say, wait a minute, we're not going to do that. We're going to make it look like a like a robot. We're going to do a black face, and we're going to make it not intimidating, and we're going to focus on it being super useful. And so I think a lot of the kind of the reservations or fears I had of just perhaps the typical industry doing a humanoid robot, they were actually I was actually pleasantly surprised that Elon had thought through a lot of those concerns and reservations. And that kind of gives me extra confidence. I'm like, I think, the AI robot endeavor, the whole industry is actually in good hands with Elon and Tesla. He's going to do the right thing. But that's another reason why, hey, why push Elon out of the company? Because he needs to steward this next kind of phase and stage of Tesla, right? Not just with cars, but with something potentially even more important. But I don't know. Maybe he'll stay with the company indefinitely. I don't know. But what's your take? Do you think does this robot kind of development, does it change Elon's kind of relationship with the company? Do you think he's more long-term committed now at Tesla?
Yeah, he's more long-term committed because what I'm thinking is Elon abandoned OpenAI. And he lost the power to control OpenAI. If you listen to him on Rogan in 2018, his first Joe Rogan, he talks about how and I love how people say Elon's like a bad guy. And he's like, dude, I tried to warn Obama. I had a meeting with Obama. I told him AI is going to be important. It's like he flew to DC on his own budget, took a meeting with Obama to try and pitch him on some shit that was going to screw humanity in 50 years. Like this guy he's got our back. And I realized that he didn't have control of that future if you look at it. And I think he saw at Tesla, he said, you know what? Somebody's going to do this. I'm going to do it first because I'll be in the most control. So I actually think he's regaining control of the AI narrative. And instead of having it as OpenAI, it's now Tesla that will create the AGI. And he's like, fuck it. Even though we're a for-profit entity, it'll be good because I'm going to run it and control it. Yet another reason why we need Elon. If you listen to what he says, they're slow. You can outrun it. It's not too strong. You could probably beat it up. He's already thinking about how to make it less scary and all that stuff and benevolent AI. So I think benevolent AI is the TeslaBot. Tesla's become the AI part of Elon's future technologies he needs to put into society. Before it was in a different entity. So I think, yes, this will incentivize him much longer to stay on with Tesla, has a much bigger purpose. And this is kind of a funny random side tangent, but have you ever seen, I was in Austin a couple months ago. Wait, do you live in Austin now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen a homeless person run up to a bunch of Lime scooters and just knock them all over? Mm-mm. Okay, so I don't know if this is getting weird or dark, but I saw this and it was so just this crazy, here's this tech thing. You have all these tech people riding these little scooters that get around the city. And then you have this other part of the city that's, we have a huge homeless issue in this country. And they're and this scooter is a symbol of the technology that's there that is kind of the bifurcation of society. And so to me, I see that the scooter is the Tesla bot. And this is kind of getting back to my weird conspiracy of Tesla's. What is Elon's weakness that we discussed? His relation with the outside world and humanity. And to me, he's already this crazy tech genius. The second he just starts deploying real robots, all these people who don't get Tesla, who don't get what's going on, or the tension's going to mount. It's going to go from, it's just a scooter to now this robot. Screw that. I'll just knock it over. I hate this robot. I don't know. I'm getting into a weird place, but I feel Tesla's discounting they're bringing so much new to the world so quickly. It's almost and just in times in history, this is what occurs. So much new stuff so quickly causes a backlash. And it's the Luddites and the people will revolt against, why are you taking all of our jobs? Why is this billionaire getting wealth? And he's worth $1 trillion. Now he's worth $2 trillion. Well, and he's creating a robot that will replace all of our jobs. It's great if you're a Tesla shareholder. And if you think about it, this will free up time for humans to be more creative. You don't actually want that crappy job anyway, then it's good. But I worried they need to get the masses on their side and they're not being strategic enough about that. If I was a geopolitical perspective thinking about Tesla, that's what I'd be thinking about. The PR team for that.
Yeah, so the other side is I think a lot of these technological changes are going to take a long time to get out. For example, Optimus, right? The robot, the current state of the art kind of humanoid robots, they're either super pricey and they're not using AI at all or barely at all. The ones that are more kind of autonomous, they're just very silly. They can't even do anything, And so it's going to be a while before I think we get AI robot from Tesla in our houses, and the first versions are going to be pretty rudimentary. And it's like again this S curve. It's gonna like people are excited about this stuff happening in the next 3 to 5 years. And I hate to tell people this, but it's going to be a long, slow adoption. Like the technology is going to improve rapidly, and it's going to like be really impressive, the demos and everything. But the problem is we're at a crazy low point right now. Like robots can't do very much at the cost point that consumer robots need to be. And so I think that's going to be one of the things that helps the backlash, if there is just I don't see robots like really taking over, like on the streets and doing all this stuff for actually quite a while. And it's going to be such a slow process, and people are going to see the demos and hear the news, and they'll get used to it over time. It's going to be something that's not going to be, I think, that shocking, as if compared, like if robots were coming in two years, everybody's like freaking out, like a robot invasion. I just don't see that happening. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not probably as concerned as you right now, just because I see a slower kind of, adoption curve, but we'll see. Yeah.
And we should get to Neuralink, which is so interesting. And you're making me think that now I'm like, wait, if Tesla's building AGI, Neuralink is the emergence of humans in AGI. Why doesn't Tesla buy Neuralink? Like, to me, this almost makes, it's a mini X merger. But to me, this almost makes a lot of sense of like, and I know Max Hodak, the CEO of Neuralink, left. It's like, wait, let's just funnel these engineering resources in-house somehow. But I'm like, wait, like if Tesla's going to build the AI robot, like, and we all think of Tesla as the next Apple, and we all know that the Neuralink will disrupt the smartphone, which is Apple's business. So
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about that? Should Tesla buy Neuralink?
Yeah. No, actually, dude, I think that is a fantastic suggestion. I think I think that's what maybe Tesla should do. Buy Neuralink. Here's the problem with SpaceX. SpaceX, because they're dealing with like national security, Air Force, Army, satellites, launches, all this stuff. If you bring it under one company, there could be some issues. Like, do you think China's going to like that? Like Tesla and SpaceX together under one company? Like, yeah, it's a little tricky. So yeah, fine. Keep SpaceX separate. That's fine. But bring Neuralink into Tesla for sure, because first off, it's not a large company. You're not going to have a lot of cash burn at that company. Right? Think about it. If they have like 50 people, max 100 people, it's like, what are they burning? 100 million a year max? 200 max? Like that's nothing. You're not even going to notice it on Tesla's cash flow statement. Tesla's printing $4 billion of adjusted EBITDA in one quarter, this quarter. Are they going to notice 200 or $150 million of cash burn on Neuralink? No, it's like ridiculous, right? It's a penny, it's a rounding error, right? So yeah, acquire Neuralink for sure. And you've got this like synergy of now you've got the next generation brain computer interface along with next generation, robot AI kind of thing. One I was reading, one person was suggesting, hey, Tesla should buy a Boring Company. That I'm a little bit more mixed on. I'm bullish on Boring Company, but Boring Company isn't necessarily riding, I think, the craziest and the fastest technological trends in the world. And because of that, I think you're gonna maybe like it's more just capital intensive, slower moving. It's not like, I don't know. I don't know if investors can get really excited about that. But Neuralink, on the other hand, this is riding, a lot of tech trends. You're talking about, unlimited stuff. And if you combine that with what Tesla's doing with AI, I mean, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. They should do it, I think. I mean, obviously, who knows? I mean, who knows? We might get some crazy backlash, off of this idea too. But no, it sounds good though. Yeah.
No, I'm sure we will. I love it though. And I love this keep thinking about it because, and that's what I really loved about the spirit of your X.com idea of like, the future is kind of waiting to be written. And I love how open-minded Elon is and like listens to your suggestions. Like he wants to hear it out. He like is always thinking about how to restructure his businesses. So that's why I kind of like, okay, maybe this Neuralink idea is crazy. I kind of think it's adding up, and you just look at the way the puzzle pieces are all happening. It's like, dude, if the AGI is owned by Tesla, like it makes sense that Tesla's also building the thing that puts it in our brains. And damn, I'm like, dude, this interview is crazy. What if this actually happens now? Elon's like, dude, this is going to be so much easier than getting that SpaceX thing through. Like,
Yeah.
it's like buy it for 10 billion. You're telling me this doesn't add 100 billion of equity to Tesla stock overnight? Like, you know what I
Well,
mean?
I don't know. I mean, I think for us, it's like hugely bullish in terms of valuation. But for most of, big money, I think they look at this as, they probably look at it as nothing, as a wash, because they can't count anything that Neuralink is doing as positive value because they don't believe it's going to happen. Like it's something that's just so out in the future that they're like, and then the negative cash flow, the cash burn of Neuralink is like insignificant. So it's not gonna, I think, hurt their valuation the negative way either. It's kind of like this, I don't know. I don't know if they'll care that much. It's such a small acquisition. So yeah.
Man, I can't wait for Neuralink. Like, we wouldn't even have to record this. We could just like Neuralink and upload. That would be so much easier. Wait, are you gonna get Neuralink? Would you get it?
I have I'm mixed. I'm concerned actually. So I understand both sides. Like I understand the huge bull case of Neuralink, and yeah, I think it has potential to be one of the largest, most valuable companies in the world eventually. But on the flip side, it's like it's gonna be a rough road. Like not a rough road, but lots of ups and downs. And I think you have to really need the device early on because you're going to have some negative side effects, I think. But those negative things are going to be worth it for those who need Neuralink just to walk or to communicate or do certain basic life skills. And so I think it's going to be a while for Neuralink just to work within this field of people who, really have, kind of basic kind of life inhibiting or life essential type of handicaps. They'll work in this field for quite a long time. Actually, I think they'll work and work out the kinks, of the whole system and get it really, really reliable before it goes mainstream. So I think we're looking at least 10 or 15 years before, normal folks who don't have major, handicaps can get Neuralink.
Yeah. And I love how they're starting, like the way you explain it, they're starting with people where the reward is so much greater than the downside risk.
Yeah.
And then kind of moving along that scale. And I always think for me, like just this idea of capturing my memories flawlessly without doing anything is so powerful. To me, that is like the killer app for Neuralink of why everyone would want it. Because I try so hard to capture all my memories, relive them, and like enjoy them. And like, I don't know, I think that's a super important part of life. That's why we take pictures. That's why we take videos.
Yeah.
That's why we always tell stories. And like, I just think having perfect memory is going to be insane. And to me, that's like the use case that I just think of that is going to be so powerful, but I don't know.
Yeah, that kind of sounds a bit scary to me because if you have perfect memory, I feel like you wouldn't live as much in the present because there's so much past to relive, Like to me, it's kind of a gift to not have perfect memory because then I don't have to think about and, like I don't want to go into my photo app like every day for 5 hours, like reliving all these experiences. I want to take my kids hiking today and do a new thing, something different. But anyways, this is probably off topic. Yeah.
No, it's super interesting because I think it's a big change for what we are as humans biologically, and it's HyperChange. It's like we're evolving in a really fast, weird way where no human has ever experienced this much change in one lifetime. And so it's kind of like, I think it's funny to like boil down the human elements of this. It's like, okay, we can talk about Neuralink as this crazy company, but then I also think it's hilarious to be like, well, would Dave Lee get one? Like, like, is it going to hurt? Like, what's the side effect? Like, there's all these human elements to it that I think are like, the TeslaBots can have a personality. Like, am I going to get him? Is he going to laugh when I do a stand-up joke? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm so curious. Like, I don't know. But anyway, this has been so fun, Dave. I really appreciate it. I'm curious. I feel like we could talk for hours. We didn't cover everything, but I'm curious if you have any, obviously I'll link to your channel. I'm sure everyone's already subscribed to you, but they definitely should already for amazing Tesla, Elon tech content. Is there anything else that you're super top of mind that I missed?
No, yeah, I think you covered it all. It was funny. I was like, going out with we were hiking this afternoon and my wife was like, it feels like you are like really excited about kind of the next chapter of Tesla. And because she's been actually watching my past videos, and she's like kind of drafting like a book of like of kind of all these like investing kind of principles and stuff. And she's like, she remembers like I've said in 2013, I kind of had this this FOMO of like, oh, I think there's going to be a big jump, or there's another stage that Tesla's getting to. In 2019, I had this another kind of like, oh my gosh, Tesla's going to, jump really fast. And I think this third kind of jump of Tesla, like I see it, I sense it, and it's hugely related with, I think, FSD, but also kind of Tesla's ramping of EV production. And I don't think it's going to be as sudden as like in 2019 and 2020 we had this huge run with the stock, and it might be more multi-year, but I definitely think there's this big jump in Tesla's identity where it's catching people off guard, because it's not what Tesla had been in the past. It's no longer just an EV company. It's no longer just sustainable transport or energy. And, it's moving more into artificial intelligence and into these fields that, again, what we're talking about here, it's like, it's just more fuel for the haters and skeptics, because they're like, oh my gosh, more promises, from Tesla and Elon that they'll never keep. But for people who actually understand that, no, Elon isn't joking when he's talking about this stuff, like he really is. When he says he's focusing on something, like he's really focusing on it, meaning he's getting it done. There's a lot of advancement and progress. And I think that's what I think a lot of people maybe are missing about Elon and Tesla right now, is that they're confused and by the noise, right, of all these, let's say, so-called failed promises of timeline, et cetera. They don't understand that, no, Elon, when he says he's doing something, like he's doing it, and yeah, Tesla is being transformed into probably, I think, the most valuable AI company in the world. That's where it's headed. But yeah, there'll be a lot of doubters, a lot of haters along the way. Yeah.
That was such a great place to end it. It's like I feel like we feel so strongly Tesla's gonna, be the biggest company in the world. They're making such profound changes in humanity. I almost feel like we're like plants talking in plant language, watching, how they say plants talk at a different time scale than humans, and everyone else is looking at the plant like it's not moving, and we're there like, no, did you see it a week ago? Where is it gonna be in 2 weeks? Like, this is incredible, and they're just like we're on it's a different thing. But anyway, I can't wait to talk again soon, Dave. This has been awesome.
Sounds good.
I hope you have an excellent
Kelly.
weekend, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Peace.